factors of 6. So you're looking for numbers that you can multiply together to give you 6. So let's start with 1. 1 times what is 6? 1 times what is 6? Remember this in elementary school with the rainbow? Yeah. Is 6 divisible by 2? Yes. 2 times what is 6? Okay, that's it, right? 1, 2, 3. There's 4 and 5 don't work. Okay, we'll start with 1. Every number is divisible by 1, right? 1 times what is 10? Is 10 divisible by 2? Yes. 2 times what is 10? Is 3 a factor of 10? No. 4? No. And I already got 5, so that's it. These are the only factors of 10. We are looking for GCF. Does anyone remember what that stands for? Greatest common factor. So here's the factors. Which of these numbers, which of these factors do they have in common? They have 1 in common. What else? 2. Anything else?
6.
No, only 6 is a factor of 6. It's not a factor of 10. So that's it. So which number is the greatest? Greatest common factor is 2. Factors of 15 are what? 1, 3, 5.
15.
That's it. 20? 1, 2, 4, yeah.
5,
Yep.
10.
20. Okay, which factors do they have in common? They both have 1 and 5. Anything else? So what's the greatest common factor? 5. We're looking for the greatest common factor. Both of these terms, what are the two terms in this expression? We have a 5x squared and we have a positive 10x. I want to know what the greatest common factor is. So what both of these terms can be divided by? 5. They can both be divided by 5, right? And is there another common factor? They both have x in common. X to the power of 1 only. Why can't I divide this by x to the power of 2? That doesn't work. Why? The lowest exponent is x to the power of 1. They both have x to the power of 1 in common. Okay? So for the next one, what can all three terms, so we have a 3x squared term, we have a negative 9x, and we have a positive 12. What can we divide each of these terms by? 3. Do they have x in common? No. 12 does not have an x. I can't take a number and divide it by x. Okay, so the greatest common factor is 3. So to factor something, well, the first step, you want to see if there is a greatest common factor. Okay, because today we're just learning this first type of factoring, which is called common factoring. And we just did this example. We know it's 3. So I know that each of these terms is divisible by 3. Well, if something can be divided by 3, what's the opposite of division? So if I can divide it by 3, it means I can multiply it by 3 to resort back to the original question, right? What's 3 divided by 3? Cancels out. What am I left with? X squared. Negative 9x divided by 3 is negative 3x. What's positive 12 divided by 3? Positive. I just wrote this in factored form. If it's divisible by 3, it means that I can multiply it by 3 and I'll get back to the same question. What's 3 times x squared? 3x squared. What's 3 times negative 3x? Negative 9x. And 3 times 4? Same exact representation. All you're doing is you're showing a different way to represent the question. I'm writing it in factored form. I'm factoring it. This is factored. And then to prove that it's the same thing, I just expanded it and checked that, okay, it's the same thing as my original. Okay, so we know the greatest common factor is 7. Why not 7x? Why is it not 7x? Only the first two terms have x. The last term does not have an x. Okay, so I know the greatest common factor is just 7, which means I can divide everything by 7. So in factored form, how would I rewrite this in factored form? 7 times, what's 7 divided by 7? What's 14x divided by 7? Positive 2x. What's negative 21 divided by 7? Negative 3. That's it. We factored it. Check. Okay, check to make sure it actually represents the exact same thing. 7 times x squared. 7 times 2x. And 7 times negative 3. Is this the exact same thing? So this represents, these are all represent the same thing. You're right, it's 5a squared. Both of these have a squared in common. Well, sorry, both of them can be divided by a squared. And 5 is the greatest number they can be divided by. So how would I write this in factored form? 5a squared is my greatest common factor. What's 10 divided by 5? 10 divided by 5? What's a to the power of 3 divided by a to the power of 2? So it can be a to the power of 1 or just a. And then do the second part. Negative 25 divided by positive 5. You have to include the sign that's in front of the term. Negative 25 divided by 5. A squared. This cancels out. It's just 5. Okay, you can check your answer again. Check. 5 times 2 is 10. A squared times a is a to the power of 3. This times this is negative 25a squared, so it works. What's the greatest number that these are all divisible by? 3. Okay, well we know they all have an x. Okay, what's the lowest exponent? What are all of these divisible by? X to the power of 2. Okay, and do they all have a y? Yes. What's the lowest exponent of y? Okay, so I know that all of these can be divided by 3x squared y squared. So you don't have to write it like this, but I just like to do this so I remember what I'm dividing it by. Okay, I know that everything is divisible by 3x squared y squared, so I need to figure out what the answer is when I expand it. What's 9 divided by 3? What's x to the power of 4 divided by x to the power of 2? X to the power of 2. What's y to the power of 4 divided by y to the power of 2? Y squared. Good, 4x, and then y squared divided by y squared cancels out, so just leave it. Good. Negative divided by a positive. 6 divided by 3. X squared divided by x squared, that cancels out. Y to the power of 3 divided by y to the power of 2. Y. Both, so 5x is multiplied by x minus 2. And negative 3 is multiplied by x minus 2. So I can actually divide this by x minus 2, right? We can divide everything by x minus 2. So, oops, x minus 2, that's what I'm dividing everything by, right? What is x minus 2 multiplied by? 5x minus 3. Both of these terms are being multiplied by x minus 2. We're going to group this together, and then I'm going to group this together. So just looking at this, what's the greatest common factor of ax and ay? What can both of these be divided by? What variable do they have in common? A, right? So for the first part, I'm grouping because I know they have like terms. A, well, what's left? A divided by A is... cancels out. I'm left with x minus y. Okay, that's the first part. I factored the first part. The second part of this expression, what do they only have in common? Negative 5x and positive 5y? Okay, but because we have a negative here, I'm going to divide everything by negative 5. Okay? If your first term is a negative, factor out the negative. So my greatest common factor is negative 5. What's left inside the bracket? X and positive 5 divided by negative y. So factor this out first, x minus y, and then you have what? A, and that's it.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.